For more details on this story, we want to bring in One America's Adonis Albright. So Adonis, this is really a heartfelt story, and you're the guy to bring on. You're always on top of the crime stories here in the U.S., so now we're kind of shifting your expertise abroad on this one. What is the basic overview that we should be taking away from this story, including the latest comments by the British Prime Minister?
Yeah, Alex, thank you, first of all, for having me on. I mean, I wish it was under better circumstances, but just a little overview on this. So last year in August, Sacoolas, as we just said, she was driving on the wrong side of the road. She hit and killed 19-year-old Harry Dunn, who was on a motorcycle. And of course, Harry's family has been looking for justice ever since. Now, fast forward to December, as we mentioned, she was charged with reckless driving by the UK, but now we know that she has no intention of coming back. Her lawyer is saying that if she goes back and if she's sentenced, she could spend 14 years behind bars, which is the maximum sentence for that charge that she's now facing. And her lawyers say, look, this is too much of a sentence for something that was an unfortunate and tragic accident. Now, in terms of what Prime Minister Boris Johnson is saying about this, he says, look, this is diplomatic immunity. It is unfortunate that this is the stance that the U.S. has taken. But he says that despite this, his government will still do everything that they can, Alex.
This is falling back on the idea of diplomatic immunity. It's something where the U.S. says that she doesn't have to be extradited back to the U.K. Can you explain to us a little bit what diplomatic immunity is and why it is shielding someone such as Sacoolas?
Yeah, so diplomatic immunity is something that's been around for centuries, but there is a more modern rendition of that. It is something called the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations that was established in 1961. One interesting thing about this is that one of the articles in that international treaty says that the home country, this in this case being Sacoolas in the U.S., can waive diplomatic immunity, but it rarely ever happens. It only happens in very high-profile cases. And the State Department, when they denied this request to extradite Sacoolas back to the UK to face charges, they said, hey, look, this would break precedent. They called it highly inappropriate. They're perhaps concerned that it could start a chain reaction, a tit-for-tat response between countries that they wouldn't be able to get a grasp on. But of course, it is still possible that could change in the future, Alex.
And I think it's worth noting, too, is that some in the UK at this moment are saying that diplomatic immunity does not apply. They claim that this individual was kind of one of those positions where he wasn't a diplomat, that, of course, being Sacoolas' husband. They say that he was, I think, in the IT department is what they're saying at the very moment. So they're saying that his position in that facility should not apply diplomatic immunity now to Sacoolas. So that's something that they're trying to say counters this whole DOJ perspective that it does apply. But I do want to bring up a soundbite really quick as well. So the Dunn family spokesperson, he kind of put out his own comment just recently, kind of contradicting what Prime Minister Boris Johnson said. Let's take a look.
We are really pleased that we've taken, or the authorities have taken this huge step towards justice. Look, yeah, this campaign will not stop until Sacoolas is back in the UK facing the justice system. So you're absolutely right. There is no celebration this morning. And until she's back, we are not going to rest. But clearly, better than we were a couple of months ago when the family were told they will never have anybody held accountable for their son's loss. This lady is accused of taking Harry's life and then fleeing the country. No one is above the law. And in modern society, you don't get to move to another country, break a law in that country, and then leave. So, I mean, I'll leave the viewers to conclude, which party is behaving inappropriately here.
So that's a spokesperson for the Dunn family, of course, the family of the slain teenager who was killed in that accident. What should be our takeaways from that comment as far as what comes next in this process?
Yeah, Alex, so basically they're saying, look, they've come so far in this fight for justice. They're trying to keep the promise that they made to Harry before he died, which is to get justice for his killer. Or for him before he died. Now, they're saying that they've just come too far to give up. Now, that spokesperson in that same BBC interview said they will be meeting with the Prime Minister. They called an emergency meeting following that interview that Boris Johnson did. But they are also pursuing other legal avenues. They're going to be meeting with other officials. They're saying that they could possibly pursue other measures, one going so far as blocking U.S. bases in the UK. Now, that does sound a little extreme in terms of practicality, But when you think of just what this family's been through over the almost 6 months now, I mean, it's not hard to understand or empathize with their case. They don't want this to happen to anybody else, and it really shouldn't, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you kind of switch the roles a little bit here, I think there would be outrage here in the U.S., but I mean, I guess it's not necessarily my place to say, but you could only imagine having a young boy die and someone admitting fault and not justice being served. So with that being said, is there anything that President Trump can do next in this process?
I mean, right now the response from the State Department is that they are going to deny this extradition request, citing diplomatic immunity, as we mentioned. It's unknown if President Trump could possibly step in. We know that the Dunn family did go plead their case to the Oval Office back in October. He didn't explicitly say that he would help the family, but we've seen in other instances that he has gone across the aisle to get things done. One of the most prolific things that I can reference right now is his meeting with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian West in the Oval Office when they pursued criminal justice reform. It's a very unlikely alliance, but that is President Trump. He is an oddball that goes the extra mile to get things done for the American people. But then, having said that, he is very pro-American. He does constantly protect American people. That is something that he has campaigned on. We've seen that in his policies throughout his time in the Oval Office. So now the spokesperson did say that if this administration does not pursue justice, they are holding out hope that come November 2020 that they could potentially, under a different administration or perhaps in 2024, that justice could perhaps be served. But as of now, that is the latest on that, Alex. Only time will tell what lies in store.
Yeah, it's a fast-moving situation, but as we said, a lot of public pressure really pushing it forward as well. Adonis Albright, you can all follow him on Twitter. He's always on top of breaking news. Adonis, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.